Mike Matarazzo may not have been a legendary champion, but during his glory years, he gained a legion of fans in the United States and perhaps around the world. That fame didn't come out of nowhere. Matarazzo was known for his natural charisma, his friendliness, and of course, his captivating personality. But there was something more: his sharp tongue and his unique way of connecting with the audience. You'll soon understand why. Without a doubt, his presence was unmistakable. With a massive physique, his calves and arms were considered among the best in bodybuilding history. Even without ever winning a major professional tournament, Mike Matarazzo left his name forever etched in the sport. However, this story, which could have had a triumphant ending, unfortunately, took a different turn. Bodybuilding brought Matarazzo huge muscles, but also a load of regrets and, eventually, a tragic end. He passed away in 2014, the victim of heart complications, a fate that many in the bodybuilding community fear. Today, I'll tell you the true story behind this giant, without filters or sugarcoating. If you enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Oh, and activate the notification bell to get all updates. I have a big goal of reaching 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and your help is essential to making that dream a reality. Mike Matarazzo was born on November 8, 1966, in the vibrant city of Boston, Massachusetts. His youth wasn't the easiest, spent in a neighborhood that, let's say, didn't offer many opportunities. Like many teenagers his age, he found in sports a way to channel his energy and overcome adversities. So, he followed the path of boxing, enrolling in a local gym. Initially, his goal was to get strong and imposing, but he soon realized that weightlifting offered him something even more intriguing: the possibility of sculpting his own body. That's when Mike began lifting weights. His results were almost immediate, and he quickly became obsessed with training. He spent hours reading bodybuilding magazines, curious to see how big he could become. For a time, Mike managed to balance his passion for boxing with weightlifting. He had success in the ring, being crowned the Massachusetts state champion in the 1985 Golden Gloves tournament in the light heavyweight category. But even with the title in hand, bodybuilding kept calling his attention. The idea of sculpting a giant physique was irresistible, and he finally decided to focus completely on weights. However, not everyone at the gym shared his enthusiasm. In his eagerness to grow quickly, Matarazzo didn't care much about technique. He always opted to lift the heaviest weight possible, without paying much attention to proper form. The gym veterans were bothered by this and warned him, "Hey man, lifting like that, you're not going to grow right, but you'll end up in the hospital." These warnings, however, went in one ear and out the other. Determined to reach his goal, Mike continued to use, in quotes, cheats in his training, pushing his body to the limit. Meanwhile, he consumed liters and liters of protein shakes, aiming to accelerate his gains even more. And indeed, Matarazzo grew impressively, almost like bamboo stretching endlessly. Despite the criticism, his focus was on one thing: getting as big and strong as possible, no matter the cost. Want to know Mike Matarazzo's shake recipe? Take note. Mix a few cans of tuna with orange juice in a blender and drink it. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. This really was part of the giant's diet routine. As bizarre as it may seem, this concoction was part of the secret behind his impressive muscle gains. It didn't take long for his arms to reach 50 centimeters, approximately 20 inches. While the gym veterans kept complaining, maybe even a little envious, Mike was focused on growing bigger and bigger. Many said he'd never get anywhere, but in 1989, he silenced them all by competing in the Massachusetts Gold Classic. Matarazzo emerged victorious in both the heavyweight category and the overall title, leaving his critics speechless. More importantly, there was his meeting with Jim Manion, president of the NPC, who saw Mike's potential and encouraged him to compete at the national level. Determined, Matarazzo packed his bags and, in 1990, moved to the Mecca of bodybuilding, Venice, California. There, he secured a sponsorship from the famous Gold's Gym, where he began his preparation for the 1991 Mr. USA in Santa Monica. When he stepped on stage, Mike was at his peak, weighing 111 kilograms, 245 pounds, with impressive 56 centimeters, 22-inch, fully defined arms. He not only won his category but also the overall title, beating names that would later become big stars, such as Flex Wheeler and Chris Cormier. That same year marked a major event in bodybuilding, the creation of the WBF, World Bodybuilding Federation, by Vince McMahon, the famous wrestling promoter, and Tom Platz, a bodybuilding legend. The WBF emerged as an alternative to the IFBB, promising massive salaries to attract top bodybuilders, offering figures well above what Weider was paying. Matarazzo was one of those who received a tempting offer, $100,000 per year, double what he was earning under his previous contract. However, Mike made a different decision. He turned down the WBF offer and kept his focus on the IFBB, determined to follow his path in the traditional circuit. However, upon fully entering the professional bodybuilding world, Mike Matarazzo quickly realized that the level of competition was incredibly high. It wasn't enough to just be big and bulky. The game was different, and the level of muscle detailing required was much greater. The quest for physical perfection led Mike to test his own limits, but this journey nearly ended in tragedy. At the 1993 Arnold Classic, in a desperate attempt to achieve extreme definition, Matarazzo made a fatal mistake. He overdid it with diuretics and potassium. The latter, an essential mineral, can thicken the blood when consumed in excess, posing a huge risk to health. On the day of the competition, his body began to collapse. During his poses, Mike battled intense cramps that overtook his entire body. As the presentation went on, his vision began to fail, and at times, he couldn't see anything at all. Even so, he tried to stay strong on stage. However, his critical condition required immediate medical attention, and Matarazzo was rushed to the hospital, where doctors struggled to stabilize him. This episode was a turning point for him. Mike knew he needed to adjust his approach to the sport. From that moment on, he started balancing his training and diet better, learning that in bodybuilding, excesses could come at a high price, even his life. After taking some time off from competitions to recover and rethink his strategy, Matarazzo made a powerful comeback. In 1996, he chose the prestigious Night of Champions to make his triumphant return to the stage. Mike appeared in one of the best physical conditions of his career to date, impressing the judges and securing 5th place. This placement was a clear sign that he was back, and with even bigger ambitions. In 1997, he climbed another spot in the same competition, finishing 4th, further solidifying his presence among the sport's top names. But the true highlight of his career came in 1998, a year of great achievements for Mike Matarazzo. He took the podium at the Night of Champions, earning 3rd place and proving that his dedication was starting to pay off. It didn't stop there. He also secured an impressive 2nd place at the Toronto Pro, one of the most competitive events of that year. But perhaps the most remarkable accomplishment was his entry into the coveted top 10 at the Mr. Olympia, the biggest and most prestigious event in the world of bodybuilding. This achievement placed Matarazzo among the best in the world and made 1998 the most successful year of his career. He had finally reached where he had always wanted to be, competing at the highest level among the sport's giants. The crowd went absolutely wild when Mike Matarazzo performed his famous tongue gesture, something that quickly became his trademark, similar to what Gene Simmons from the band Kiss did during his shows. This spontaneous move captivated the audience in a unique way. Sometimes, even before I stepped on stage, the guys would start yelling, "Show us the tongue, Mike," he recalled in an interview. The first time he did this was at the 1991 Mr. USA competition. Mike was so full of emotions at that moment, unsure of how to channel them, that he decided to stick out his tongue as a way to let it all out. The crowd went wild, and the reception was so positive that this gesture became one of the most anticipated moments in his performances. Additionally, he also broke new ground by stepping off the stage and posing among the audience during the 2001 Mr. Olympia, a bold move that won even more fans. It was at this same event that he placed 21st, and dissatisfied with the result, he decided to retire from bodybuilding. After hanging up his competition boots, Mike sought a quieter life. He moved to the peaceful town of Modesto, California, where he hoped to finally find peace. However, the tranquility didn't last long. Over time, Matarazzo began to feel increasingly tired, lethargic, and drained of energy without being able to pinpoint the cause. Even so, he continued to push himself in training, weighing an impressive 123 kilograms, 271 pounds, and still harboring plans to return to the stage in the spring of 2005. But one December night would change everything. Mike woke up suddenly, coughing up blood and with foam coming from his lips. He was gasping for air and struggling to breathe. His wife, realizing the severity of the situation, rushed him to the hospital. There, doctors discovered that Mike was suffering from congestive heart failure. 2 of his arteries were completely blocked, and the third was 78% obstructed. Faced with this critical situation, the doctors performed a triple bypass surgery to clear the arteries and restore blood flow. However, this procedure only temporarily solved the problem. Mike was just 38 years old at the time, and although the surgery saved his life at that moment, the issues didn't stop there. 3 years later, during a routine checkup, doctors found that his arteries had become blocked again with cholesterol plaques, and during the exam, Mike suffered a heart attack. This time, doctors implanted a defibrillator to monitor and correct any potentially dangerous arrhythmias. The diagnosis, however, was grim. Matarazzo's heart was functioning at only 20 to 25% of its normal capacity. The doctors made it clear that if this level dropped below 20%, he would have to be immediately placed on the heart transplant waiting list. Mike was now fighting against the consequences of years of intense training and the use of substances common in bodybuilding. His body was paying the price, and the battle for his life had become his greatest challenge yet. After the heart attack, Mike Matarazzo experienced a profound shift in his outlook on life. In his own words, he began to value every second as if it were his last. Before, I thought the most important thing was to be big, but now, it's simply being alive. This change in perspective reflected his newfound understanding after the heart surgery that saved his life, but also forced him to face the harsh reality of the choices he had made in the past. Shortly after the surgery, Mike gave 2 interviews to Flex magazine, which resonated throughout the bodybuilding community. In the first, published in March 2005, he revealed that he suffered from genetically high cholesterol, which had put him at risk for years, although he had realized it too late. He reflected nostalgically on his lost health and expressed immense gratitude for still being alive, despite the limitations his condition imposed on him. In the second interview, in July of the same year, Mike was even more honest and direct about the decisions that, in his opinion, had led to his situation. He confessed that his path started to go downhill when he decided to take competitive bodybuilding seriously. To gain muscle mass quickly, Matarazzo adopted an extreme diet, eating between 5 and 7 kilograms, 11 to 15 pounds, of red meat per day, without including vegetables and avoiding fruits because of their sugar content. However, he made it clear that the real issue wasn't the diet, but the chemicals he consumed. I have no doubt that the main cause of my problem was the chemicals. It was the steroids, the growth hormone, and the diuretics, he admitted. For him, the use of these substances was the primary reason for his debilitated condition. Mike revealed that if he had the chance to go back, he wouldn't change much about bodybuilding itself, but he would definitely give up using those drugs. When asked what advice he would give to bodybuilders who still had time to rethink their choices, Matarazzo was firm: stay away from drugs. Only a few people in the world can live well from competitive bodybuilding. I was one of those who lived from it for 15 years, but I probably shaved 20 years off my life with these choices. His words were a clear warning to the younger generations, pointing out that no amount of money, fame, or trophies is worth it when the price is your own life. I would rather go back in time, get a regular job, and live to old age like my grandfather. I bet everything and lost in every way. Physically, I'm completely limited. Financially, I'm almost ruined. And emotionally, it has destroyed me. I was a guy whose only fear in life was losing my parents, and now I live in fear of every little pain and discomfort I feel." These confessions revealed the harsh reality of someone who had reached the top but was now facing the devastating consequences of his choices, leaving a warning for those following the same path. Mike Matarazzo was always a strong advocate for bodybuilders to invest in health insurance and undergo regular medical checkups. He knew firsthand the weight of the consequences of neglecting these aspects. Without insurance, when his health problems began to surface, Mike faced enormous medical debts. "Focus on keeping your body as healthy as possible," he advised. "Your body needs to last not just until the next contest or the end of a bodybuilding contract, but for a long time. And for a human being, that long time is almost nothing. It flies by. And it goes by even faster when your health is gone, and you have nothing to rely on." These words were a warning to a new generation of athletes, many of whom are obsessed with quick results without thinking about the long-term consequences. After stepping away from bodybuilding, Mike returned to his working-class roots, where he found a new balance in his life. He began working as a bail bondsman, a profession that reconnected him with the simple, modest lifestyle of his youth. Now, far from competitions and the stage, Matarazzo maintained a much lighter workout routine. He regularly did cardio, hit the punching bag like in his old boxing days, and lifted light weights, always very careful not to push himself too hard. Even with his past glories in bodybuilding, he didn't let himself be affected by what people said about him online. Matarazzo rarely used computers, didn't follow forums or social media. "I'm a caveman," he joked, referring to his aversion to technology. He only knew what was being said about him when a friend told him. This distance from the digital world gave him more peace to live in tranquility. One of his greatest passions after retiring from competitions was fishing with his children, something he had done with his own father decades earlier. For him, these fishing trips were moments of connection and genuine happiness, far from the hustle and bustle of the life he once led. In the small town of Modesto, California, where he chose to live after leaving bodybuilding, Mike found the anonymity he had always desired. He led a quiet life, like any other middle-class worker, a life that could have been his from the beginning if not for his meteoric rise in bodybuilding, which began in 1991. Even after achieving fame in the sport, Matarazzo never forgot his roots. He grew up as an Italian-American kid in a working-class suburb of Boston, and despite all the glamour and challenges of his career, his roots always pulled him back. Though his journey in bodybuilding brought him invaluable achievements and lessons, it was in returning to a simpler life that he found true peace. Fame and success, which so many seek, did not bring him the happiness he expected, and his life after bodybuilding reflected that search for balance, appreciating the small things that truly mattered: family, friends, and the simple pleasures that life can offer, like a day of fishing with his children. However, this period of peace and seclusion for Mike Matarazzo wouldn't last long. His health, which had been deteriorating for years, continued to worsen, bringing with it an ever-growing physical and emotional burden. He always leaned on his family, friends, and his strong Catholic faith. There was hope that a heart transplant could save him. He was on the waiting list, but time was not generous. On August 16, 2014, at just 48 years old, Mike's heart stopped beating for the last time. His premature death was a heavy blow to the bodybuilding community, and he left behind a legacy that will be remembered for decades. Mike Matarazzo was more than just a bodybuilder. He was a legend, known for his meteoric rise, his genuine way of connecting with fans, and his energetic and authentic stage performances. His leaps during poses and his iconic tongue gesture to the audience showed that he never saw himself as someone superior, even while being at the top of his sport. In 2003, during an interview, Mike was asked what he hoped to hear when he reached the gates of heaven. His response was sincere and revealing of his humble nature. "Come in, Michael. You were a very good man on earth. Enjoy your eternity." These words encapsulated the spirit of someone who, despite all the ups and downs he faced in bodybuilding and life, maintained his humility and the awareness that kindness and character are what truly matter. Even with all the recognition and fame, Mike never lost his essence. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think of Mike Matarazzo's tragic and heart-wrenching death? In your opinion, were the steroids and other substances used during his career the main culprits for his premature passing? Or do you believe, in some way, this fate was already set for him? Let me know in the comments because I really want to hear your thoughts. Also, share this video with a friend who's interested in bodybuilding or who cares about health and sports. And if you're new here and enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and of course, leave that like. It really helps to promote the video and makes YouTube recognize that this kind of content deserves to be seen by more people. Oh, and I have an ambitious goal of reaching 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Do you think we can hit that goal together? I'm counting on you to help make this dream come true, so share it with those you know, and let's reach this goal together.